Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. So my presentation today is about what Moodle means for developing countries. Uh, my name is Rajneel Totaram, and I'm a developer educator at Moodle Academy. And like the previous speaker just mentioned, so the Tiny MC course and the webinar, those are hosted on Moodle Academy. And one of the things that I do is manage Moodle Academy and create those courses and host those webinars. So this session today is about what Moodle means for developing nations. My name Rajneel. I live in Fiji. So it's a very small country, and if I just show you where that is, if you will see on the map, sometimes you don't even see where these countries are. So the presentation today is not about me being an employee of Moodle. It's about me being a Pacific Islander, and especially talking about that region that you see in the red. There are more than 12 countries there, but if you look at the map, you might only be able to see one or two islands. But in fact, there are hundreds of islands there, maybe hundreds of even tinier atolls. And in this case, there would be these 12 countries that I would talk about. So these 12 countries are part of a university that I used to work for before joining Moodle. So it was the University of the South Pacific. And the 12 countries are Fiji, where I am from, and that is the largest country in that particular region. Then you have Tonga, Samoa, and Vanuatu, which are the larger islands. And then smaller countries like Niue, Cook Islands, Tokelau, Tuvalu, and Kiribati. So these developing nations, they're very small countries. Just to give you some context, Fiji, for example, the largest country in that particular region, has a population of less than 900,000 people. Solomon Islands, I think, is the next largest with 700,000 people. Vanuatu with 300,000, less than 300,000 people. And then we have smaller countries like Niue with just 1,800 people, entire population of the country. Tokelau has a population of 1,600, the entire population. And we still need to reach these people, we still need to educate these people. So small islands, very limited resources. As you can see on the map and in the previous map, it's mostly surrounded by sea. And like I mentioned, there are hundreds of islands. In Fiji alone, we have 300 islands. So just imagine, how difficult it is to connect to people, how difficult it is to reach those people. And because we are a small country, everything is expensive because of a very low purchasing power that we have. Our currency is weak. Some of the countries don't even have their own currency. They either use the US dollar, the Australian dollar, or the New Zealand dollar. But one thing that is common in these countries is that Moodle is popular. Not that everybody uses Moodle, but Moodle is, in terms of learning management system, it's the most popular than any other learning management system. In fact, I don't think, apart from one or two probably institutions using something else, everybody else who uses an learning management system would be using Moodle. And one of the reasons why that happens is because of the use of Moodle in the universities. So the major universities in Fiji, in Samoa, in Solomons, in the Kiribati, they're all using Moodle. So you have students coming there. We have a lot of students also who are adult students, who are working, who are teachers, who are managers in particular institutions who might be also working for the Ministry of Education, they are students. And when they come to the university, they experience online learning, they experience Moodle. So when they go back to their schools, to the institution, and they think about how we can reach all these other people, naturally the only thing that comes to mind is just use Moodle, because they've already experienced what it is. So like I mentioned, the universities, the other biggest influence for Moodle in the region is the University of the South Pacific. So this was I think the earliest university formed in that particular region, specially designed, especially formed to serve those 12 island countries, established in 1968. And from its initial days, it was designed for distance education. And prior to using Moodle, they used WebCity for some time, but obviously for cost and limitations of what you could do with WebCity, they moved to Moodle after a very consultative. After researching many different options. So before adopting Moodle, what was education like in these countries? So like I mentioned, there are 12 countries. They're in many different islands. Distance education. So you could either have face-to-face education where you need to come to either Fiji, Solomon Islands, or Samoa to have face-to-face education. So that means the students in the other countries would have to leave their families, come to this country and live and study. Most of the time, those students would be the income earner. So, there was quite some issues, when they come to study here, then how do they support their families back home? The other thing was that if they stayed back, so they miss out on that face-to-face education. So the option was to use print-based education. So at the beginning of the semester, they would enroll, the university would send them a package of, what the course material would be, what the assignments would be, and ship it to the students via normal mail. So the normal mail would be, by post. Or the students would come to the campus, take the materials, and go back to the islands. And then they would study, follow what the guide is, do the course, do the assignment, and then mail that assignment back to the main center, Fiji, Samoa, or Solomons. And mail in those days, this is talking about, before 2006. Well, before 2010. And after 2011, we had online education. So up until 2011, this is what used to happen if you are studying by distance, by distance. So a student would complete assignment, mail it back. So if they're studying in the islands, that would take a few weeks for them to submit for that assignment to reach the staff who is going to assess their work, grade their work, and then give the feedback. And that feedback will again make their way to the student via mail. So the turnaround time from the day that you submit assignment and you get feedback would be around 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, sometimes up to months. So that's the challenge that, or the reality that students faced in those days. So when we decided to shift to Moodle, it basically enabled all those possibilities that we had, right? Students didn't have to wait so long to get feedback. They could easily submit their assignments. So why did these countries, especially the University of the South Pacific, choose Moodle? So obviously, cost was an important factor. I wouldn't say that Moodle was free. Of course, you can get Moodle for free. You can use it for free, but there's still cost involved in running the Moodle service. So it was an affordable option. It was something that we could easily afford. But the important thing was also the freedom to where we want to host it, the freedom to what customizations that we could do, and the freedom to choose when we want to upgrade, which version we want to upgrade to, on which date we want to upgrade to. With previous systems, they would upgrade at their own times, which would usually be in between our semester. So it would cause disruptions. So that freedom was important. And then the choice that you have. Out of the box, Moodle has so many options. You could configure it in so many ways. Then you have additional plugins that you could add on top of it. And then you have all these other integrations that you can do with Moodle. So the important thing was that, with Moodle, there was never any lock-ins or restrictions. And it was something that would just do the job. So with Moodle, basically what we had is, it was something that we could afford, but more importantly, it was something that we could make our own. It wasn't like, we were always controlled by something. So if you look at other larger tech companies or the services that we use, we are always controlled by what versions that they support, what devices that they support. If you've got a phone, then you can only install these certain apps from that particular store, app store. If you are in this particular region, then you can only access these things. With Moodle, we did not have those things. And like I mentioned, we're from those small countries. All of those countries were either colonized or dependent on another country. So there was always this master-slave mindset that we always had. So with Moodle, we never feel that we were a slave. With Moodle, we never feel that, Moodle was controlling us. So that was something, really empowering for us and for, I think, all those countries that use Moodle, is that you're always in control of, what you want to use, how you want to use it, how you want to configure it. Out of the box, Moodle is highly configurable. You could do so many things with just the standard Moodle installation. You could configure it and do so many things. Then you have plugins. And it depends on what you want to do. There's probably already a plugin that is there that would do something similar to what you want to do. You could get those plugins from the Moodle plugins directory, or you could also get that plugin on GitHub. It's not compulsory that all Moodle plugins needs to be on the plugins directory. It's not compulsory that, if you're using Moodle, you have to only install plugins from the plugins directory. You can get it from anywhere. Moodle is customizable. The plugins that you get for Moodle is also customizable. So you could take a plugin, doesn't do exactly what you want some modifications, you are free to do those things. And in case you don't find something that does what you want, you can also write your own plugin. And then, of course, again, that freedom that you have. You could share that on the plugins directory, you could share that through GitHub, or if it is something just very specific to you, which would not make sense to the other people, then there's no need to share it. You could just keep it for your internal use. But that's the flexibility that we have and the freedom that you have, right? It's basically available to everyone. There's never any restriction. Then you could easily customize features. At least that's what we found. Although Moodle was one system that we use, we had student management systems, something for finance, something for HR, of course for university. So there were some open source systems that we used. Moodle was one of them. Mahara was another. And then there were some proprietary systems that we used. And whenever the university needed to, add something, have a particular feature, or, try something, do something else, so we would look at, all the systems that we would have. Our IT would say, okay, we can't do this with this because we don't have any license. We don't have support for that particular thing in that particular software. oh, it's just going to take so much work. So a lot of the time, a lot of the customizations or things that we did happened through Moodle. Anything that ad hoc that needed to happen, that we needed to implement, roll out quickly, a lot of those things we tried to do with Moodle. And the next few slides, I'm just going to share some of the things that we did. Some are very simple. Some of those things might not make sense to others, but those were important for our country to reach our students, and it made sense, for us, for the University of the South Pacific in this case. So this is a screenshot from 2021 of the My Courses page. But like I mentioned, they started using Moodle in 2006. So in Moodle 1.8 was the very first customization that they did for how, when a student logs in, they go to the dashboard page, this is how they wanted the courses to look. So this is, after, from 2007 to 2021, after several iterations, this is how it finally looked in 2021. But initially, the idea was that, you want to show students only those courses arranged by that particular faculty, by that particular semester, and by the year level. So that was very simple, that's something that they did, but that gave students an easier experience into identifying the courses that they were using and the courses that they were in fact studying. Then this was an interesting one. So in 2014, there was a need to identify the amount of time each student a student spends in a semester, just to identify what was the workload for students. So the easiest way, some of the things that was considered, we could do a survey, we could use like different tools. So again, the management went to the IT, the planning office. Okay, we can't do this because we don't have support for that particular module. It is available in that proprietary system that we have, but we can't afford it, or we don't have license for it. Or if we needed to have something, then in another system, then it takes so much time. So this one was interesting because our manager at that time attended that meeting and then said, yes, we can do it. And once he comes back to our team and says that, okay, this is something that the management had decided, and we need to get it done in a week. To build a tool that allows students to log into Moodle, record their time. It should allow them to record their time per course, per week for the entire semester. A semester would be around 18 weeks. And they could only submit between specific days within certain times. So, and then send a reminder if the student did not fill it in every week. So our approach was to build a block added to the different courses, and then the block would allow students to record the data, and that data was then exported, recorded in the database, and then exported, and then handed over to the planning office for analysis. The second system that I'm going to talk about, the customizations and the additions that we did to Moodle, was SMS-based service. So in 2013, we had SMS-based service. This was the time when most of the other countries, universities were moving to apps, smartphones, push notifications, and having basically courses accessible on the smartphones. But for these countries, that was not an option. Smartphones was something that most students could not afford. Mobile internet was really expensive, so even if you could have a smartphone, you just couldn't have the data. So you would always need to be on campus on the Wi-Fi to access it. And then the campus Wi-Fi would still be very limited in terms of coverage and bandwidth. So if everybody comes onto the network, then basically nobody can use it because it just gets overwhelmed. So our approach was to use SMS, especially to notify students, to allow them to access their marks. Like I said, those students would be in those different islands, disconnected, and they would travel to the campus once a week, maybe once a month, just to access the course announcement, just to access their feedback, their marks, or to get updates from the course. So to save that travel, and sometimes they would travel all the way only to find out, okay, there's a disruption here, the marks are not available, or maybe there's no power in the campus. I had that situation. So in 2007, I traveled from Fiji to the Marshall Islands to give a face-to-face class, because a summer class. And that was the only way, to give students to experience this. And the students came all the way from the island. I traveled about 3 days to reach there. And when I arrived there, there was no power on the island for 12 hours every day. So during the day, there would be no power. In the evening, there would be power. So we couldn't have the classes for a week. And then they changed the routine. So, so 1 week, we couldn't do anything. But that's how life is. So with SMS, so in 2012, we had a two-way SMS communication to allow students to access announcements, marks, access exam timetable, library notifications. What we did was something like this. So we had Moodle in the forefront because every student was able to access Moodle. And through Moodle, we were able to capture the students' up-to-date mobile number. Then we made use of another SMS gateway to connect to Moodle and also connect to the mobile service providers. And we had to reach students in 12 different countries at least. And there could be students in other countries as well. And absorb all the cost for sending and receiving SMS. So that was the reason why we needed to have that SMS gateway, so that any SMS that gets sent or received on that particular shortcode gets absorbed by the university. So there's no additional cost to the student in their learning. So a very simple thing. They would send an SMS to a particular number with marks, the name of the course, name of the assignment, and they will get that feedback. A similar thing, a command on the SMS, and they will get that feedback. And this SMS notification was really powerful when Cyclone Pam hit, when Cyclone Winston hit. Everything is disrupted, travel is disrupted, roads are blocked. The easiest way to communicate was through SMS. And then there were power outages, so we implemented something, a dark mode. So when we had Winston, the place where I lived had no power for 2 months. So at that time, we did not have dark mode. So on my laptop, I would just dim the screen to the dimmest level, and then try to do some work on the laptop. So for that reason, we added dark mode. Then the great thing about Moodle that we have is that even though you're from a small country, you can still go to moodle.org, ask any question. No restriction, nobody judges you, there's no discrimination, somebody tries to help you. And Moodle Academy, and I'm proud to be part of Moodle Academy now. We now have free courses and webinars for educators, administrators, and developers. So it's something that allows us an affordable upskilling for these people who cannot travel to conferences. If you notice that I'm the only one from that particular region here in the global conference, because it's too expensive to travel here. And then the support for Moodle. You are again not restricted. You could go to Moodle forums. You could use a non-Moodle partner to get support, because sometimes the partner is not in that particular region, or maybe the service of the partner is something that they could not afford. But then, even if you are self-hosted, you could always go to a certified partner to get that level of support in case you are stuck. So what does Moodle mean for these developing nations, for those countries that you don't see on the map? It's something that is empowering, and Moodle lives true to the mission, empowering educators, but in this case is empowering everyone, educators, students, the tech people in those countries. It gives us opportunities, it makes us part of that whole, it's inclusive, and it gives us just the freedom to use things, use this product, a great product, and use it the way that we want it. So with those, thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
Time for one question, maybe two.
Thank you, Rajneel. We also have a similar setup from a distance education perspective where we have to reach students in remote rural areas. With your SMS gateway, are you finding your students maybe demanding a move towards something like WhatsApp, or are you still going ahead with the SMS gateway?
So the SMS services were used between 2013 till 2022, I think. But now we have a lot more people with smartphones. Mobile internet is more affordable. So a lot of communication now happens through normal internet from the smartphones. But I think we still have that SMS as a backup in case something happens, we don't have internet, then reach SMS. So SMS at the moment now is for emergency cases only. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Could you tell us how the SMS-based quiz works? I mean, from Moodle to the end user and back. Technically, I mean, do you extract? Is that a special quiz that you've created? Is that a special tool?
Yes. So basically, what we had at that time was, so you have Moodle, which allows you to connect to students, and the important thing was to get the mobile numbers for the students, and then we have this SMS service. So connecting to Moodle was one thing for allowing us to access notifications, but the quiz was a different component that connected to that SMS service. So it was a separate quiz out of Moodle, custom created, so mostly multiple choice. So you would
Can you show us a course?
Sorry, I don't work for the university anymore. So this is part of what I used to do before joining Moodle. So I worked for the University of the South Pacific for 15 years, and then in 2022 I joined Moodle Academy. So basically, the for the quiz would be, you would type a command something like quiz, and then your particular course name, the name of the quiz, and your student ID number. And then that information would be stored in the quiz app, and it will keep track of, then it will say, okay, this student is now starting this particular quiz, send question number 1 via SMS. And then the student would respond with quiz for that particular quiz name and what the answer is. And then it would go to the SMS application, it would identify correct or not, and then send the next question. So that is basically how it worked, yeah.
Where I'm confused is, the SMS-based quiz, is it outside of Moodle or is it inside Moodle?
The SMS-based quiz would be outside of Moodle, yes. Not part of Moodle quiz, yeah.
Thank you.